Positive Nerd Podcast, the podcast that aims to unite fandoms over subjects that divide them. Yes, we are essentially the mental health positive podcast for pop culture nerds. It's very lovely to have you here. If you're a long time listener, as in 7 episodes in, or whether you're fly by night, hello, welcome. We record this live on Twitch and we put it out on YouTube, Spotify and iTunes after, so please subscribe if you can. I'm here as always with my lovely co-host Liz. Hello, Liz.
Hello!
Yay, Liz! Now, you guys may have noticed for the last sort of 6 episodes, sometimes the sound wasn't so great, sometimes the visuals, if you're watching live on Twitch, wasn't so great, but we're professional today. What do you think, Liz? Are you excited?
Yeah, sounds great. Looks great.
So, she's looking amazing, I can tell you that, and she sounds amazing. Now, guys, here's what we've got coming up tonight. Alright, on this episode, we are going to be talking about politics. Should politics stay away from comics? And we'll explain more about that in a second. Then we're going to go to Liz's Comic Corner. We're going to be talking about Batman 89 because that introduces a new character, Punchline. Terrible name. Joker's new girlfriend. Terrible name. Next up, we've got video game movies are crap. Are video game movies crap? Are they not crap? We're going to be talking all about that on the podcast tonight at the very end, so we get to reminisce and get nostalgic. Okay, so let's go on to our first topic, Liz, which is politics should stay away from comics. Okay, let's start with the tweets, Liz. I'm going to start with the tweets, and then you're going to explain to me, and then we'll get on with it. It's all in relation to, what is the comic that got released? Please remind us. Or is getting released?
Is to be released. So announced this week was a 5-part miniseries that is going to be spinning out of the Empire event, coming along very soon in Marvel. Going to have a big ripple effect in the Marvel Universe. And this is the introduction of a new team called the Union.
Yes.
Who are representing Great Britain.
Right. So, having said that, let's look at the tweets. Now, they're representing Great Britain. Liz, can you just, before we look at the tweets, just cycle through the team members? Because when you cycle through them, the tweets will make sense. Who are the team members on the Union?
Okay, so you've got one established character, Union Jack, who has been around for quite a long time. He's an English guy, but he wears the Union Jack flag as his costume. And then you have 4 new characters who are just going to be introduced in this book. You have Snakes from Northern Ireland. You have Kelpie from Scotland. The Choir from Wales, and Britannia, and they have not actually specified where Britannia is from.
Great. Yeah. Got you. Okay. Now, there was a lot of, there's a big uproar online when this came to fruition. So let's look at the tweets. Watch Union Jack as he burns 96-year-old Katrina out of her cottage for the heinous crime of speaking Gaelic rather than English to her factor. Thanks for this, Marvel. So, to explain, I think a lot of people were saying this was the wrong timing, right, Liz? So, that's what a lot of people were saying, because the Union comes at a time when it feels like Great Britain isn't so great and is actually rather divided, right? So, next up, we've got another tweet from Taylor.
Yes, exactly.
So, D. Taylor 5633. We didn't. Now, Liz and I find these tweets. They didn't tweet us directly. Just have to make that known. Taylor says, "Can't wait to read about the adventures of Marvel's new Union Jack, slaying dirty foreigners, crippling the evil, disabled, and plunging his knife into the poor and destitute. Huzzah!" So that's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek tweet there. We've got another one from Ian Dunt. This is a little bit more positive. "The only one I recognise is Union Jack, but good heritage here. Captain Britain has long been a depository for really intelligent, progressive political ideas. Moore and Cornell runs especially." What does this tweet mean for those who aren't very into the comics?
It basically, it's an established character. It's not something, I think a lot of people are under the impression that this is a character they've just made up right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe, if you just dip in and out of comics, you wouldn't be familiar with him because he's not a character that gets used a lot. Like, I can't remember the last time. I mean, I want to say there was like a 5-part miniseries like about 10 or 15 years ago that I remember, but it's not a really well-known character.
Okay.
But he has been around since like 1976, so it's not a new idea.
Great. Okay.
So there actually is a good history with this character and stories that have been told with him.
Right. So because some people,
so that's what the tweet is getting at. Even though they actually name check Captain Britain, which is a different character, different English hero who has been. Alan Moore did a really great run on Captain Britain that was very political. And so I think they're just saying that this character could get the same treatment.
Okay, so we're going to last tweet, Liz. This is from Paul Grist himself, who is the writer. Correct me if I'm wrong, he's the writer, yeah? So Paul Grist who says, for those of you pointing out that the Union Jack and the English flag are not the same thing, thanks, but I do know that was the point being made. Now, Liz sent me quite a few tweets about this, and lots of Paul Grist's responses. It seems that he's very aware of what's going on. He keeps saying, I am aware, I'm very aware of what's going on, but I feel like maybe people are jumping the gun. What is your take on this, Liz? As someone who, first of all, you've lived in Britain for a long time, but you're not also British, but you're also a comic book fan. So I'm interested to hear what you think.
Okay, so I absolutely understand the knee-jerk reaction to this because the way it was announced, it wouldn't lead you to believe that there's anything really under the surface. It's just the announcement and all the tweets and the marketing of it was very much like, yes, go us. We're like the new UK team and, we're going to fight together and it's going to be awesome. It did not give you any indication that it might be something, a little more thoughtful, a little more, relevant to what's going on. Whereas I think, from what I know of Paul Grist as a writer and, the fact that he is English, he's very plugged into politics and, he's got a long history of writing stuff that, is, about, sort of being British and, and all the, sort of political problems, that go along with that. I think that it's going to actually be something, that is quite thoughtful. But you just wouldn't be led to believe that looking at the marketing. Yeah. So I totally get why people, had this knee-jerk response like, oh, this is terrible timing. Why would you do this?
I think it's definitely to do with some of the marketing and the way that the information was released. If we go back to the Paul Grist tweet, and within this tweet we can see a tweet from Marvel Entertainment, and it's an image and it says, Union Jack, he's fought for Queen and country, now it's time to find out which country he's really fighting for. I just don't think that that's possibly the best way to market this, and also I just feel, despite Paul Grist probably being a great writer, I can't say I've read any of his stuff particularly, but it comes at a time where the subject of Britishness and being from the UK and what being British means feels very inflammatory. It feels like an open wound. And also there are things, in amongst it, because each nation is its own nation. Because I wouldn't consider myself British. I consider myself Scottish. And I'd never ever say that I'm from the UK. I always say that I'm Scottish, because that's the way I was brought up in Scotland. It doesn't, I'm not saying anything bad, but there's so many different mindsets within that. The UK, as you know, because you've lived here, it's got so many different brains and nationalities within it. There's a tweet that I read that I didn't put up that basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, it was like, Kelpie leaves the team after a couple of years. The Choir, who's the Welsh one, has Stockholm Syndrome. Snakes doesn't give a shit, does his own thing, and the Union Jack is a foreigner hating blah blah blah. So there was like, right, okay, it was quite, I just don't think it's quite right But do you think that politics should stay away? I think it's timing more than maybe story. The story might be fine, Liz, but let's think about politics and comics. What do you think about politics and comics, and do you think this particular story should never have been even made? Like, or this team?
I, it's a mixed bag. I can't say because it hasn't come out yet. Because I do think that, as you say, okay, there's an argument to be had that, okay, this is bad timing. People are, it's a bad time to be, putting this into a comic book, which is, kind of, it could be just, light entertainment. But I do think that it's a conversation that people are having. And, you can have that on all different kinds of platforms. And, if it's done right, you can really explore those ideas that are on people's minds as a reaction to what's going on in the world. And I feel like a lot of the most successful comics have done that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like, things like Alan Moore's kind of, best known works, like Watchmen and V for Vendetta, have been very much a response to what was going on in politics in Britain at the time they were coming out. You get things that are directly autobiographical, where people tell their stories. Some of the things that, stories you had asked me that I wanted to touch upon. It's like, I do think there's absolutely a place for politics in comics because, some of the best art, is a reaction to particularly fraught political times. When you look at music, a lot of those great movements come out of really bad, sort of political situations. And it's like, in protest and anarchy and things like that, that you create a revolution against the thing that you might be upset about. So I don't think that censoring, sort of what people can write about is the right thing necessarily either. But until I see the book, I can't say whether it's in bad taste or not.
Absolutely. I think what I would say is this about the Union as a team. When we're looking at the image, if you're watching along live on Twitch, obviously you won't be able to see this afterwards, but I kind of think the names of the if I'm just being very, very picky about it, just generally speaking, even the names of the characters, like the Choir, Kelpie, Snakes, they could have maybe done it on the Union, maybe changed his name, maybe changed it up to reflect perhaps how modern citizens within Britain identify themselves. You can still be Scottish and not be called Kelpie. You can still be from Wales and not be called the Choir, which is the most old school thing I think about when I think about Welsh people. I'm like, oh, choirs. Like they're all got lovely,
right. But that could be a deliberate choice. We don't know yet. So
Perhaps. You're being very positive, which is good, because it's called Positive Nerd Podcast. I mean, I do agree with you, though, Liz, that I think that, in fraught times, that some it's the same with music and film. In fraught times, sometimes some of the best art is created. I just think that the way that this is marketed wasn't right. But you mentioned V for Vendetta. What other political comics would you recommend looking into?
I think, some of my favorite comics are very politically charged. Ones that are very well known, even that people might not sort of, even think like, oh, that's a very political comic. Something like Marvel Civil War, which I think probably everyone's seen that film now. The Captain America, installment of the film, and also the comic, which is a bit different. But it is, it's a very political comic. It's about sort of accountability, and should superheroes be responsible to the government? Should they be working as, basically government employees, for, their safety or, the safety of the people? And, it asks some questions that are quite, relevant to, what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah.
So, so that's certainly one. That's I highly recommend if you haven't read it. I think, most people who like comics and like Marvel have read it.
I think again, going back to politics and comics, or politics and entertainment in general, I think if it's done in a good way, it has to be done in the right way. And I think that about my television shows, and I think that about music, and I think that about movies. I really don't mind a little bit of politics, at all, as long as it's done tastefully and we can debate and there are interesting ideas that emerge from that. If the Union comes out, and in fact, Paul Grist has written it in a clever way that reflects the times that we're living in, and perhaps it's maybe slightly tongue-in-cheek to be calling those characters such obvious names, then fine. You know what, we should maybe review it on this podcast when it comes out, because I think it would be important to revisit. But personally, as positive as I want to be, I'm going to be kind of neutral on it. I think it's because, like, growing up in Scotland as well and being a Scottish person with a Scottish mindset, I think sort of a little bit differently about the whole thing. And do you think it's a little bit, I don't know, it seems a bit patronising, but perhaps it's fine. And the whole thing, he fought for Queen and Country. Like, I don't give a shit about Queen and Country. I'm like not that bothered. Like, but
but like of course I'm wanting to sort of like jump to like give it the benefit of the doubt, because we haven't seen it yet, and it's like, okay, but that, I'm hoping for from it, I guess, is something that takes all of, like your feelings and, everybody's feelings into account, and, and basically creates a space for that conversation to be had within the comic.
I hope so. I hope so, Liz. But to be honest with you, I'm thinking, like, from what I've seen online, even with the best intentions, when people try and talk and debate with each other in a nice way, for some reason, this is a massive point of contention, and it started with Brexit, it started with people wanting to break away from the Union. Like, it's a massive point of contention, and it's so inflammatory. Liz, do you honestly think people can talk nicely about it? Do you think we can?
No, I don't. Like, I really don't. Like, having looked at Twitter, I was like, oh my God, like, I couldn't actually even narrow down the tweets I wanted to send you because there were so many.
I was just looking at the Scottish ones, and those alone, I was like, yeah, oh God. It's like, so I can't imagine all the ones that you were looking at. I'm going to say this, though, regardless of what you think, what we shouldn't be doing is going and pinpointing creators and throwing hate tweets at them. What do you think, Liz?
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. And like, it's like, I understand the reaction, but also, maybe reserve judgment until you have read the thing as well. Because you really don't know, like, until it's come out, you really don't know what the content of it are gonna be.
Honestly,
but, this could be a lesson to Marvel in, like, in how to market your, politically charged book.
I know. I mean, maybe they should have, like, spoken to a few Scottish, Welsh, Irish, and English people, like, on the ground, maybe. But yeah, I feel like perhaps it's a lesson in marketing. I'm actually really curious to read it now. I'm not sure how much I will enjoy it or not, but I'm going to be, you know what? Regardless of what's happening in politics, let's, try and be supportive of creators. Paul Grist is just trying to get by, and he's just trying to, like, make the best stories he thinks he can make. So what we shouldn't do is go online and start going, I think this is rubbish. Don't do that. Like, you've not read it yet, okay? So I think politics shouldn't stay away from comics. What do you think, Liz? Let's keep.
Absolutely not. You'll be missing some of the best comics that have ever come out if you think that politics and comics can't mix together.
Absolutely. There's lots of political comics, political films and TV shows that do it right, okay? And go check out V for Vendetta, like, it's very, and Civil War. Oh my God, I love Civil War so much. It's like... Yeah,
amazing. Superman Red Son was another one I wanted to mention. Brilliant.
Oh my God, yeah, I really need to watch. I need to read Superman Red Son. But let's move on. Let's go to happier planes, happier landscapes. Let's go to Liz's Comic Corner. I'm getting better at that. Right, okay. Liz, what have you chosen? What did you choose for us last week? Or the people chose? Sorry, what did the people choose?
The people chose. It was on a poll that we voted to on Twitter, and the people chose Batman 89, first appearance of a brand new character called Punchline.
Oh, well, first of all, I love our lovely listeners and our lovely watchers, but Jesus Christ, you guys are predictable. I totally knew you were going to choose Batman 89. New character, you say? Batman, you say? I was like, please choose something else, because we talked about Batman a lot last week. But Punchline, can I just say, I'm sorry, right? I'm going to go on to rant mode, Liz, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Joker doesn't need a goddamn girlfriend. Harley Quinn, fine. There was a great backstory, fine. Punchline is possibly the shittest name for a character and a girlfriend. Oh, so hey guys, I can just picture now. Guys, sit around. We want to create a new character for a Joker, a girlfriend. So what are we thinking? Well, his name is Joker, Bob. So how about we go with that's it, Trevor. I've got it. Punchline, that's it. No. Sorry, that was my terrible accent. No, Liz. No.
Hey, I can't really argue with you there.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Do you
writing retreats come up with some, you have to wonder if it was like, how many like glasses in they were at the writing retreat when they came up with the name. Oh
God, let's not let that take away from the comic. So let's talk about the comic, okay? So Batman 89. Now, okay, I am not keeping up with Batman at the moment. So when I read it, as someone who is a fair weather Bat fan who sometimes jumps in, sometimes jumps out, this felt to me. First of all, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, okay, this is just me jumping in. Obviously, I recognise all the usual characters, but just felt very average. I wasn't that excited by it. The writing, fine. The art, fine. Great. The art was brilliant. But what do you think, Liz? How would you describe this? What happens in Batman 89?
Well, you know what? I think that's a pretty fair assessment. It's a pretty standard issue of Batman. Mm-hmm. It's actually it's funny the way these things work sometimes, because I'm sort of like a few issues behind. Like, I kind of I read every issue up to the end of the Tom King run. And then after that, I've kind of dipped in and out a little bit, which, so I didn't read the issue or two that precedes this, mm-hmm. but I found it pretty easy to pick up, like figure out what was going on. You can kind of tell, like, okay, so there's a new villain, who you see in the issue, who apparently is kind of the mastermind behind what's going on. Like all the sort of big bat rogues have teamed up, like, to take down Bruce Wayne. And then there's this character called the Designer, who is now backstabbing all of his co-conspirators, mm-hmm. And going after them. So in this issue, it kind of opens with the Penguin, like sort of stumbling into the hospital, and he's been attacked and he's bleeding, and he says, oh, well, you need to treat me, but you need to do it off the books. Like, I'll either give you $100,000 to just take care of me off the books, or I'll murder you and your family. Those are your choices.
Sure, no problem. Take some plasters. Yeah. Take some paracetamol and plasters.
Yeah. And then Batman, in the meantime, is he is going to the Riddler's hideout. The Riddler's not there. You get the gist that the Joker had been probably attacked first and was presumed dead, and Harley and Catwoman go to a grave and discover that the body in it isn't the Joker's body, so of course he's still alive. And in the meantime, you get literally two panels in which you see like sort of the like half a face of somebody like with a pair of binoculars who is watching Harley and Catwoman while they're at work. Mm-hmm. And when it comes back around to the end of the issue, you find out that is Punchline, who is calling the Joker, and she's in touch with the Joker. So that's all you see of Punchline, is the lower half of her face with a pair of binoculars.
Yeah,
that's the first appearance.
like I went through the issue quite quickly because I had a busy week, and I always find it hard to read things anyway through the week. So I was a good girl and did my homework like 3 days after the last podcast, but I went through it quite quickly, and I almost had to go back, and I was like, oh, is that her? This mouth? This is it? Oh,
yeah,
I paid for this
so much, Yeah, exactly. They hyped it up so much that you're like, literally this issue was selling out at all the comic shops. It was selling online for big money, like, like 30, 40 pounds, like the day after it came out. And, that is, that's all you get.
It's so...
You get her mouth and her hand, and that's about it. But it counts as the first appearance, so it is the first appearance. So, and it's in a very sort of like average issue of Batman, and it's just a little tease. But this is how first appearances work, and people do make a big giant deal of them.
They do. I guess it is exciting because if you're like a super Bat fan, it's exciting to get a new character in the Bat universe, and I think that's fun. But hey guys, don't spend your money on this. Like, wait till she appears properly. Liz had to find me an actual picture of Punchline properly. And again, like, they're always like kind of messed up hot girls. I kind of feel like wouldn't it be fun for like if the Joker's gonna get a girlfriend, it'd be fun for him to just get someone just really normal who just like walks about the house in a giant moo-moo and slippers and is like, what time do you call this? Your dinner's on the table. And he's like, oh, and that's the only woman that can tame him. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but she also happens to be called Martha. Coincidence?
Or Marge, or something like that.
Like, so there's like a fucked up thing going on there, and she's always got rollers in her hair, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, God, take the trash out. Just take the trash out, for Christ's sake. It's like, I've been plotting Batman's demise. I don't friggin' care, and make the bed before you leave in the morning. I feel like that's the kind of woman that he needs, Liz.
I like it. Yeah.
These hot ladies that are a bit messed up are not going to stay for very long. But do you think, let's talk about, does the Joker need a girlfriend? Does he need a girlfriend, Liz?
No.
Why? Why do you think he doesn't need a girlfriend? I think Harley Quinn worked in a way, but why? Why are we humanizing the Joker here?
I mean, I think like Harley Quinn came about because in the animated series, because the Joker needed a foil. He needed a character who, he could have banter with, who was like a lot of the things that the Joker isn't, which is like, likable and actually funny. And basically she served a purpose, in that she was like, she was kind of that cartoon foil. But their dynamic was super messed up right from the beginning, but I don't see, like, in terms of the comics, like, I think it was only because Harley was so likable and so popular from the animated series that ever crossed over into the comics. Because, obviously now Harley has, broken away from the Joker for very good reasons. And, but, her final word on the situation was that, like, oh, he never loved me because he's not capable of that. The only person that the Joker is actually kind of in love with is Batman. Right. He's obsessed with Batman. No one will ever be more important to him than Batman.
You know what? Forget the Joker having a girlfriend. The ultimate romance. Just imagine, it would be so amazing. Oh my God.
I mean,
Batman could be one of those like dick boyfriends like he always is. And then Joker would become the housewife. He would become the house husband, sorry. And he'd be at home going, but I just cleaned the carpets and you're bringing in your dirt from all of the rooftops you've been traversing all night long. I would read this.
You've been out all night. I've been here waiting for you.
And he's like, well, I saw you texting Harlequin, so I just needed to go out for a drink. And he's like, it's over, I promise, it's over. But I don't really think, like, just generally speaking, like,
no. I mean, no. Basically, yeah, a hard pass on the Joker needing a girlfriend.
It really doesn't. And I do kind of feel like, in terms of Batman comics, Batman 89 is possibly not the best Batman comic to jump into. I loved, is it Tom King's run. I thought like he was very, very good. But what would you suggest is a good place to start for the in the last couple of years? If you think about the last couple of years, Liz, if you were to recommend a Batman storyline arc, what would you suggest for people to jump into?
I mean, well, if when you say last couple of years, like, I think a lot of the stuff, it's like, the beginning of runs and things like that. You can kind of take your pick from like the beginning of the Tom King run or the beginning of the Scott Snyder run. When I'm introducing people to Batman in general, there's like, I have a couple of real go-tos, which are Batman Year One.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Long Halloween. Like, both of those are really good introductory points, I think, because, if you have never read a Batman story, either one is like, kind of a really great segue into modern Batman comics.
Absolutely.
Long Halloween introduces like the whole rogues gallery in one book, and it's like, it's finite, it's done in one, you get a full story. You get the introduction to his whole rogues and allies, and a lot of those Jeff Loeb Batman stories too, like Hush or something like that.
Oh yeah, Hush is great.
Yeah, just there you go. Here's all the rogues. Here's all the Bat family friends, and it's done in one. Things like that.
Absolutely, yes. There are other comics out there that are much better than this one. I think if you're hedging your bets and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be great, it's a new character, it is so average. Like, I've read much better Batman stories, so I would say, yeah, like, this is not that great,
It's perfectly fine. It's like a perfectly fine issue of like, Batman that, kind of in between, like, Tom King's big, like, thoughtful run.
Mm-hmm.
And we know we're going to get, a little further down the line, it's, another big writer is going to take over. So this is kind of just keeping the story ticking along. And it's fine, but it's not like extra special. Like, maybe don't spend the 40 or 50 pounds on it unless you really love Punchline.
I just had this, like, when we were talking about Joker and Batman being the ultimate couple. Because Batman chases after Catwoman and all sorts. It's like, clearly your taste is skewed, and you've got, you're clearly going. It's like a friend where you keep going for the wrong ladies or the wrong boys, and you're just like, it's like friends like that. What if I'm just thinking an alternative universe, Liz. What would happen in an alternative universe if they did write a storyline where Batman and Joker ended in a romantic embrace? Like, they'd all, would people go mad? Or would would some people go, oh, this is actually what's meant to happen?
I mean, I feel like there is definitely like an Elseworld story with that stamped all over it. Like, it's gonna happen. And certainly the internet is full of fan fiction. Like, I mean, it's definitely not the first time anyone's thought about this.
You dirty nerds. Dirty nerds. I love it. I would read it. I would be up for that. Just like a nice little alternative universe thing. Doesn't have to be in the main story if they don't want to be. But I am so living for a Batman Joker relationship where Joker is.
Yeah, I mean, come on, like, it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen eventually. I mean,
to tell you, Batman dickhead husband, Joker stay-at-home husband who just tries his best and then turns to villainy again because he's like, you know what? I'm going to try and kill you. I'm going to try and kill you. Like, that's it. Poison you, suffocate you in your sleep, whatever. He just turns to villainy again. But yeah, I'm, again, like, I don't know. Like, this whole girlfriends thing. I think this is a thing in comics, though, Liz, where and it's not just Batman. It can be any comic that I'm reading. I sometimes feel like romantic storylines, girlfriends and boyfriends are shoehorned into characters' lives when I don't think characters need a romantic storyline. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And, it is a thing where, okay, well, Harley functioned in this role for X amount of time. Well, now we need another character to kind of function in that role. Here you go. Here's another one, whether it makes sense or not,
Yeah. I just don't think it's very, I'm not sure if it's very imaginative. I just think having the Joker as is. But yeah, like, generally speaking, if you want to go check it out, Batman 89, if you can't get a physical copy, it's available digitally now. Liz, tell us, what have you got keyed up for next week? Are we doing a vote, or have you chosen something that you are really interested in?
I think we're going to do a vote, and I have, before the end of the podcast, I will have finished making my decisions, but it's still a little up in the air as to what we're going to vote on. So, so people can feel free to like write in their suggestions while we're talking.
Yes.
And maybe that might help.
If you are watching along live on Twitch, of course this won't matter if you're listening afterwards, but if you are watching along live on Twitch, please throw some suggestions into the chat. And Liz can see them. I think Liz can watch. You can see the chat, can't you, Liz?
Yes.
Yes, so Liz will see them. So that was Comic Corner. I'm very excited about the choices that we might have for next week. We'll find out at the end of the podcast. Next up, oh yes, here we go. So this is a fun subject. Video game movies are crap. Right, so that was the title I chose for this. And I'll tell you why I chose this, Liz, is because the Sonic movie just came out. And I'm very surprised that I think it's done a lot well with fans than what I thought it was going to do. And so it gave me that idea, based around the Sonic movie. Whether you've seen it or not doesn't matter. So I tweeted out on my Twitter account to people asking if they'd seen the Sonic movie. And this was the response. This is from Chris Habas. He said, "My kids, 11 and 9, both watched the Sonic shows. Older and new, have played games and loved the movie. As an adult who played Sonic games, I can say the movie is a very good movie for kids." So that's the first tweet. Wolfman's Nards says, "Game aside, I thought it was decent. Wanted to whip out my controller and press up, down, left, right, A at the same time." Yes, oh my god. Nostalgic nerd vibes here. And finally, we've got Dominic Gonzalez, who's Avatar Dominic on Twitter. "I think the actual story is one of the strong points because I loved it, and I was never really a Sega kid." So we can see there already, Liz, from the tweets. I'm like, wow, like, okay, that did quite well. Birds of Prey came out at the same time and totally got so much flack. And you've got Sonic movie doing quite well. It seems like it's a very good kids movie, but are video game movies crap? Have you watched any video game movies at all, Liz?
Not a lot, I gotta say. I'm struggling to think because I'm not a video game person. Like I don't really play video games, so I have not felt the call. I haven't
felt the call. I love that. I've not felt the call.
Yeah.
I love
especially
that.
They usually get trashed, just terrible reviews. So
well, but before this podcast, Liz and I were speaking a few days before, and I said to her, I'll probably talk about I will actually most definitely talk about Super Mario Brothers movie. Liz hadn't seen it, but Liz did go and watch some stuff on YouTube. Liz, what was your impression from watching the bits and pieces on YouTube?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like taking one for the team.
Like, what did you make
it?
It
was something else. It was something to behold. Like, I mean, Dennis Hopper with like the blonde cornrows.
Oh my god, yeah, jeez,
like,
he's King Koopa. He's King Koopa.
Dancing with each other in the elevator.
Oh my god, I love that.
Like everything about it making zero sense. Like, but it was quite hilarious,
I think that's what I think back then when I first watched the Super Mario Brothers movie, it was back in the sort of early to mid 90s. It kind of comes back to that, like, it's a kids movie, like it's not a movie for adults, and they've built this on the actual video game. Same with Street Fighter. Like, I really loved Street Fighter, particularly Street Fighter 2, which was amazing. I think it was on the SNES. But when Street Fighter came out, oh my god, like, Jesus Christ. Blanca, the green character, if you don't know what Street Fighter is the green mutant character. It was just some guy painted green with, like, an orange wig. I was like, that's not the mutant Blanca. Like, no. I was like, okay, not into... But it kind of, like, fits in with all of those sort of movies of the time. And another one I thought about was Hitman. I had to watch Hitman recently. I've played Hitman, and then I had to watch the film recently in the last year, and that's another terrible film. I don't want to know Hitman's backstory. He's a goddamn hitman. He's just a plain old hitman that likes killing folk, or he doesn't like it. He was trained to do it. I don't want to know his frigging backstory. I definitely don't want him sleeping with any ladies and having any romantic things. Why do they have to squeeze romantic stuff into things? Ugh,
They
so
always do.
annoying.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why.
annoying. But I want to talk about Injustice, because I played Injustice and I think Injustice is a great, great fighting game. But you talk about the comic, Liz, because you've read the comic, right?
Okay, yeah. So this is where I can contribute because I have, like zero experience with video games. When I was like a little kid, I would like play some Mario 1. I would get to about level 3 and then I would die. So that's as far as I've gotten with video games. So I just have never really gone out of my way for the films, never really gone out of my way for the comic book tie-ins, because usually, if a game is successful enough, they'll do a comic book tie-in, little mini series or something.
Yeah.
And so a couple of years ago, the Injustice game came out, and DC, who adapts a lot of video game stuff into comic book tie-ins, started putting out the Injustice Gods Among Us comic series. And on the recommendation of one of my coworkers, they were like, you really should read this. It's really good. And I was like, video games don't care. Sorry. But then I got, temptation got the better of me, and I was amazed by it. I was like, oh,
really?
Wow, this is actually awesome.
Okay.
It's so cool. It's a writer that I really love, Tom Taylor. It was kind of like maybe his first really big thing in mainstream comics, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's just like the best. When BVS came out, and people were coming in the shop, I would say okay, well, the movie may not be very good, but here's a really great Batman versus Superman story.
Yes.
Because it's absolutely brilliant. It's it's so good. And particularly the first big chunk, the first year one, which is all by Tom Taylor, is awesome. I haven't read tons beyond that because it got so popular. It kind of has kept going on and on and on. But that first big chunk of the story is absolutely brilliant. And I highly recommend it.
It's an interesting one because I think actually there are a lot of games that actually I think would lend themselves quite well to comic books. Maybe not necessarily films. I think Street Piper. That's a totally different thing. Street Fighter, Street Piper 3. In fact, I would play Street Piper. Oh my god, yes. Street Fighter is one that I think, if we really think about it, because I've read about the character, I understand the characters, I think that would make a great comic because there's lots of different characters you can latch onto. Conversely, I really like the idea of Hitman being perhaps a graphic novel where you delve back into his terrible childhood or the way he was trained. It kind of reminds me of, it's very Black Widowy, he's kind of trained to be a killer, that kind of thing. And I think that would lend itself well. Interestingly enough, though, Liz, you were talking about the Batman games. Because you were like, those games were the things that may have persuaded you to play video games. Why was that? Now, those Batman games, Batman Arkham City, I think it was, and things like that, Arkham Asylum. Oh my god, I was obsessed. Why? What did you think?
Batman Arkham games, I have zero skills when it comes to, to video games, but I was really tempted just because they sound so awesome.
Yes.
All my friends who were playing them were like, oh, you would love them. Just even go on YouTube and watch watch play-alongs of the games because they're so well done, and the stuff they do with the characters is so cool, and the character designs are so cool, and so I'm very tempted to learn how to play video games just so I can play the Batman Arkham games and be done with it.
I don't think you would be disappointed because they are some of the first games I went back to play back through again and actually get the trophies, and actually trying to do things really stealthily as Batman as well felt very satisfying. Hang this guy from this little column and do this, and oh my god, and that is why
that's some wish fulfillment. I get to be Batman.
Exactly. And this is why the Spider-Man PS4 game was so great as well. because you had it had gameplay wise, it had that same feeling I had from the Batman games. You could like stealthily get bad guys, you could web them to walls so they couldn't say anything. You were swinging through the city, and you could like stand on Avengers Tower, the tallest tower in the whole of like New York or whatever, and just look down upon everything, and and then start swinging once you jump down, and so great. And the fact that Miles Morales and stuff like that is in there as well, so great. Like lots of different characters. And another game again, so that now we're talking about, so we've talked about video games to film, but now actually we're really talking about comics and things like that to video games. Another one I'd like to suggest is an old one, the Blade Runner film. So great. The Blade Runner PC game in the 90s. So great. You like Blade Runner, don't you, Liz?
Yeah, I do. I love Blade Runner.
What the Blade Runner game did, for those who haven't perhaps played the PC game, and I think it's available now online, and it's quite cheap and it's easy to download because it's an old game. It took the lore of Blade Runner, and what it did was it set it in that world, in that universe, and it was a continuation of the story, but you're not Deckard, okay, you're like a completely different guy, so you still recognize things. It's still set in that world, and it almost feels like you're building a little bit on that world, kind of the way I think the John Wick films are going to do, where they build upon the hotel world and all of the, there's like a build there. But I mean, do video game movies suck? I don't know, Liz, can you give your opinion, I guess?
From what I have seen and heard, so far, I would say yes.
I love it.
Maybe I'm slightly ignorant because I'm not plugged into this stuff, but all signs point to yes.
I love it.
However, I do think that it's one of those things where, like, if you had asked me 10 or 15 years ago, like, do superhero movies suck, I would have said yes. It's only once, like, there's like a hit, and like, the studios start to look at it as like, oh, we could actually do something really good with this. And, then like, the tide could turn. All of a sudden you could have tons of amazing video game adaptations. So
I'm very surprised you used to think that superhero films sucked. What made you think that they sucked so bad? Like, what were the films that you were like, ugh?
Oh, I mean, like, come on. Like, there's a lot, like, Catwoman, Elektra, like, the, like, Fantastic Four movies, Daredevil, like, all those, kind of from that era, there was just a lot of pretty bad superhero films.
But you know what? I kind of like, like is a strong word. If I'm talking about the Fantastic Four films, I kind of don't mind them. Do you know what I mean?
I don't mind them either, but they're not good.
No.
Like, not what is coming out now. Which I imagine they're probably kind of on par with some of the kind of video game like adaptations that are like watchable but just not great.
Yeah, they're like, I'd say like Daredevil and Elektra and stuff like that were all absolutely shockingly bad. Shockingly bad. Like, really, really goddamn bad. But, I think with Fantastic Four, like, I'm all right with that. Like, I've got a really high propensity for a lot of crap, which is why when I watched the Super Mario Brothers movie again, I actually didn't mind it. I had to watch Street Fighter a couple of years ago, and then Hitman last year, and I actually didn't mind them at all. Like, I really didn't mind them at all. Like,
I have like some affection for like, something that is like just next level, like ridiculous, stupid, bad,
What was it like? What was your guilty pleasure film from like a few pods back? It was Rob Schneider film. Can't remember.
Like The Hot Chick or something like that.
Right, okay.
That's genuinely just hilarious. So
okay, so if everybody, Liz likes The Hot Chick, so she's now not allowed any opinions on any video game movies ever, because I would definitely take Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers versus The Hot Chick. That's the debate I'm going to put out.
Like, people could vote in.
Yeah, people could vote in. So
go Hot Chick.
Go Super Mario Brothers. Do you love Liz or Claire more? That's all I'm saying. Do you love your first mum or your second mum? That's all I'm saying. Let's talk about the comic corner for next week.
Okay.
Have you been looking at the
Have you
chat?
had any suggestions? Because I haven't been paying close attention yet.
I think there was one suggestion from someone who was chatting something about Paper Girls, I think.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there
Paper
was
Girls.
that.
Um,
But what are you thinking, Liz? What were your kind of
okay.
choices?
So my top choices at the moment are Falcon and Winter Soldier issue 1,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
one of a 5-part miniseries.
Okay, interesting.
Um, uh, which obviously is a Marvel book. There is a Vault Comics book that I thought looked kind of interesting. I can't quite tell you too much about the premise of it, but it was called Finger Guns issue 1.
Okay, that sounds dodgy, but okay.
Finger Guns issue 1.
Okay, Finger Guns issue 1 sounds interesting. Okay.
It's something different. It's Vault Comics, like, who are doing some really good stuff at the moment. Like, they're kind of a very cool up and coming publisher that up and coming. They've been around for a little while, but they're kind of having more and more success. So the other one, which I know you will love, is Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost issue 1.
Oh, but I hate that bitch, Emma Frost.
I cannot wait.
Hate her. What a bitch.
I will be reading that, right after we hang up.
Oh my god. I think we have like 3 really good choices, but there was like the Paper Girls thing as well. I don't know if you've looked into that.
Yeah, let me see what the Paper Girls thing, because I don't see it on my list of stuff coming out this week.
I would really, I mean, I like Paper Girls anyway. I think Paper Girls is really good, but
if there is an issue coming out this week, I will add it to the poll.
Okay, so let's put it to a poll. Okay, those are the 3 anyway. So if you are watching live or listening within the first sort of 48 hours of this podcast going out on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify, then 100% you will be able to vote in the poll, and the poll will be available via Nerd Jabber's Twitter account, which is just Nerd Jabber. Okay, so you can go and vote in the poll. Liz will put it up later on, and we'll retweet it from our own accounts. I'm just gonna say this. The last one sounded very good. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I like a bit of X-Men, and I think it's been very Bat heavy and very DC heavy for the last.
I mean, I'm very keen to read Giant Size Jean and Emma. We'll be doing that either way, so
that bitch, Emma, bitch. I want, we need to start getting sound effects of farts and stuff, and every time she's mentioned, that bitch, or just maybe a kind of Sigourney Weaver, Ripley, get away from her, you bitch. Yes, that's the sound effect that we need for Emma Frost. So you're gonna put those out definitely later on. So please look at Nerd Jabber and make sure you follow me and Liz. Liz, where can people find you before we do the fan art call out? Where can people find you?
People can find me on @LizCJordan on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm WeClaire on Twitter, so you can follow me for nerdy chat and shit. Or WeClaire here on Instagram. If you want to see lots of Insta stories about my cat. I mean, that's literally my life. My cat and working out. I'm very boring. I lead a very boring life. So if you want to go follow me, that's where you can follow me. Or if you're listening on Twitch, it's WeClaire here if you're not watching along. Liz, now, we did do fan art. We did a call out for fan art, and that comes after the podcast. We'll show it after the podcast. But let's do a call out for fan art this week. What is the theme, Liz? What is the theme that we decided for the fan art?
What is the theme we decided for the fan art?
Liz wasn't listening during our meeting, guys, our very important podcast meeting. She was too busy thinking of somebody's arms, obviously. It's video games!
I'm drawing little pictures in my notebook.
She's just drawing arms, lots of dodgy looking arms. The theme this week for the fan art is video games. It's video games. So,
of course,
although Liz isn't really into video games, let's try and bring her into the video game world by doing positive nerd video game fan art. So, I'll leave that to all of your lovely imaginations. You can, like, make me Mario, make Liz Luigi, or vice versa. Maybe I'm a Goomba. I don't know. And Liz is Princess Daisy. Maybe I'm popping out of a pipe somewhere. Or maybe Liz is actually looks really good in army fatigues and she's Guile from Street Fighter 2. Who knows? Right, so I will absolutely leave that up to you guys. The theme is video games. We want your fan art. And if you want to post us fan art, you can either tweet us at WeClaire or Liz C. Jordan, or you get into the Discord, which we'll put up details of later, and you go into the Positive Nerd text channel. Liz, are you excited about the video game fan art?
Oh, so excited. Yeah, I can't wait to you be brought into the world of video games through the power of Photoshop.
And big tip for you guys who are doing the fan art. Liz loves arms, as we know. If you can incorporate that into the fan art somehow, she might be persuaded.
Yeah, if I see some really, really impressive video game arms, it might tempt me to play the games.
Oh my god, you need to play the Batman games. You must. I mean, Batman's got big arms. So, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Please, it really helps us. It means we can make more. So it's Positive Nerd on iTunes and Spotify. We're up there right now. Or you can watch on my YouTube channel, which is WeClaire here, or download for free on nerdjabber.com. But no matter what you do, please share, please subscribe, please shout out about us. Liz, it's been another wonderful episode. Have you enjoyed the rants and the positivity?
I have so much.
Yay!
As always.
And stick around if you're watching live, because we'll be doing our little chit chat afterwards. But for now, this was Positive Nerd Podcast. I am WeClaire. This is Liz C. Jordan. Keep it positive, keep it nerdy, and we shall see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.